Once I got my eye in, I realised that all over the place buildings were festooned with bas-reliefs invoking women. There were statues of queens, of the Blessed Virgin Mary, of saints and patronesses. I walked by the river to photograph a visiting tall ship. She was beautiful before crossing to Waterloo, where I was welcomed at the station's vast arched entrance by yet another stony-faced Britannia. It's a pity I couldn't have gone home in a steam train to complete my perversely feminine journey. They are invariably described as ladies too. I'm glad I made that tour. I had not realised before how potent the image of idealised womanhood was in public life, and how ubiquitous. Her dominant presence in the establishment of the 19th and early 20th centuries made it even more difficult for flesh and blood women, half the human race, to gain access. A real Victorian lady's place was nowhere near the inner sanctum of the traditional professions. She was the angel in the house, characterised by Coventry Patmore in his endless poem of the same name as utterly innocent, utterly selfless, utterly beautiful, and so graceful that she somehow seemed to float an inch or two above the ground. The angel's natural habitat was the drawing room or the nursery. Her duty was to marry as well as possible and to make others happy. If she must work, as an unfortunately distressed gentlewoman perhaps, or a chronic spinster, then let her teach, or, at a push, train for nursing, but always with an ambition to stop as soon as she could. These are ladies we're talking about. Women, on the other hand, were expected to labour in factories, domestic service, anywhere that would have them. Men had careers, women had jobs. Ladies, like children, behaved nicely and did what they were told. The first faint cracks in this divinely ordained order appeared during the late 1860s, when women were admitted to a growing number of British universities, though not always awarded degrees at the end of their studies. The campaign for women's suffrage gathered momentum at around the same time, and with it the concept of women's rights. As access to higher education widened and collective confidence grew through political activism, women began to demand, politely or otherwise, to be allowed a meaningful role in public life. The First World War gave them just that, but only temporarily. Afterwards, the establishment expected them to strap on their angel wings again, go home, and subside into domesticity. True, the vote was won in 1918, but only partially. The Sex Disqualification Removal Act was passed in December 1919, but its scope was limited and easily misconstrued. And the habits of the past were hard to break. Virginia Woolf, embarking on her career as a professional writer, may have refused to play the part of the angel, but was only too well aware of her influence. The shadow of her wings fell on my page. I heard the rustling of her skirts in the room. She slipped behind me and whispered, "My dear, you are a young woman. Be sympathetic, be tender, flatter, deceive, use all the arts and wiles of our sex. Never let anybody guess that you have a mind of your own." By 1920, that secret was out. As universities produced increasing numbers of educated women, a problem emerged. What were they to do once qualified? During the period between the two world wars, fewer women as in females, forget the class distinctions now, were able or minded to marry, and more found themselves solely responsible for dependence. They needed to work to earn their own and others' living. And of those who didn't need to, many chose to, being creatures of intellect, energy, and ambition. Those who had graduated in professional disciplines such as law or architecture, or had practical wartime expertise in medicine or engineering, were no longer content to waste their potential. They had already proved the reactionaries wrong. Females did not collapse if they thought too hard. Cleverness and attractiveness were not mutually exclusive. It was even possible for them to overcome their physiological emergencies and remain rational beings every day of the month.